So it's Saturday. Yesterday we worked on trusses. Got all the trusses up except for the end truss for the main porch down there in the back side of the house. So today I'm going to try to do that. But you can see everything went up pretty well. Did it a little bit different than they would normally do it, I guess, because usually you try to get the end truss plumbed up first. But the way I had to situate the forklift to be able to get all the trusses in, I had to, well, at least I kind of felt like it would make more sense to start with this second truss in here. So I got that one set first, and then we tied it all down, got it in line. I lasered, I marked on the floor where the center of the truss should be, which I think here's my mark right here. So this right here is the side. It would be this side of the truss, and this is the center of the truss. So put a green dot laser on it, and it's kind of hard to see from the ground. I kind of had to get up in the lift to see the mark on there, but it right now it's sitting right where it needs to be. I think once, you know, the way it is now, I think it can shift around a little bit, but once we get the trusses all on there, or the purlins all on there, it should stiffen it up enough that I won't have to worry about that getting out of place. So did run into something yesterday that I thought was kind of weird. My understanding was, because there's a 1.5 foot 18-inch overhang all the way around on the eaves and on the gable ends. And so my understanding was you would take the end purlin and extend it out the 18 inches past the end of the building. So that would make these ones 13'6" from where they attach at that truss right there to where they extend out past the end of the building. But when I was looking at the counts, there's only 30 of the 13'6". We would need 22 on this side and 22 on the other side. And so since there's only 30, then that makes me 14 short. So then I started digging into the plans, and I noticed that they actually put extensions on all the ends. So supposedly I'm supposed to stop the purlin at the truss, or no, not at the truss, but at the end wall, which is about 6 inches past the end of there. So I think it's a 12'9" purlin that I put up there, and then put basically a coupling on and extend the purlin out the other 18 inches. And so I don't know why they would do that, why you wouldn't just extend the purlin out, unless there's some kind of a shear requirement, so that if the winds get strong enough to rip the eaves off, that they don't rip the whole roof off. I don't know if that's what that is, but right now I'm kind of considering just extending it all the way out and not putting the couplings on. And if I have to go get some more channel, I guess that's maybe what I'll do. I might just have to get 14 pieces of channel, although I will have some extra channel. And none of these ones are long enough, but obviously there's windows and doors going in, so I'm not going to need all those pieces. So I got to look and see what actually is in there for the end walls, because, like, well, for example, this end wall here, the whole thing is windows. So if I have at least 14 that are at least 13'6" long, that I can steal from the end girts, then I think I'll just extend these purlins out all the way to the end, and then 18 inches past. I think that would be the way to do that. I'll probably, before I do that, I'll probably talk to some people and see if there's something I'm missing on that, but I really don't want to put couplings on all those. It just seems like a cheesy way to do that. But so anyway, for today, I gotta put the end columns in. There's 4 of those. There'll be one there, one over there on the other side of that pipe, and then the same thing on the other end. And then over here we got 2 more of these columns will go on the end of this porch here. These are actually longer. I made these 6 1/4 longer to make up for the drop for the porch, and also the pitch where it goes, it pitches down. Of course, a year ago when I came up with this, I wasn't exactly sure what the pitch would be. So when we actually formed it up, I got the laser out, and I saw that where they were actually ending up, it was 3/4 of an inch too high. So we just put in the template there, we put a 3/4 inch piece of plywood in there to make that inset a little bit. So where that sits now, it's very close to where it needs to be. It's probably within a 1/4 inch of where it needs to be. So I'm okay with that, I think. So we'll get that up there, and then of course the end truss will be attached to these columns. And then the thing with the end columns here, there's no attachment points for girts on it because the wall doesn't continue out. It stops right here. So this is all open right here. So the trick is, how do I support these columns here while I have a truss sitting on the end of it? I'm not super comfortable with just leaving it sitting there like that. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to beam clamp some square tube onto the side of the column in a few places, probably like 3 places going up the column, and then I'll extend, or I'll probably just add some girts out here to extend out to the column, and we'll screw those onto the column. I think that should be good enough for that, for temporary anyway. So one thing that all these columns and trusses and everything are gonna end up getting painted black, at least the exposed ones. And I was contemplating painting all these before I put them up, but when I thought about it, these are pretty big pieces of steel. I would have to do quite a bit of prep work, and I'd end up having to stand them up someplace or put them someplace where I could turn them over, and I'd have access to both sides so I can paint them and everything. So I got thinking about it. I'm like, well, it might be easier just to stand them up first, the ones that I have access to, and I'll just have to mask off in here a little bit when we spray them. And of course this floor in here, we'll probably end up having to grind it a little bit anyway before we can put a finish on it. But on the outside, we're not going to be polishing the broom finished concrete, so I didn't want to get paint on this, and I didn't want to have to fight around it the whole time to just try not to get any paint on it, knowing that there's going to end up getting paint on it. It's just the way it works. So what I ended up doing was all the exterior columns and trusses and everything that is going to be in this outside area, I painted those ahead of time. So those are all sitting over here, and they're a pain to paint too. It's going to be it's probably smarter that I did it the way I did it, because the columns on the inside, a lot of those are going to get wrapped or not wrapped, but they'll be concealed in the walls. Some of them will be exposed, but some of them will be concealed in the walls, so I won't have to paint the ones that are concealed. But the ones that are not concealed, I won't be painting the whole thing. I'll just be painting the exposed part of it. But you can see out here I had got these all painted up. I think it turned out pretty good. These are dipped in that primer stuff that they put on them, so it's not a clean finish anyway. It's not smooth. It's got like bubbles and drips and all kinds of stuff in it, which I guess, you know, this is exposed framing members, you know, it's not supposed to be pristine, so I'm okay with that, I think. So I just painted over it, and I think it'll actually look pretty nice. So these are the let's see, these are the end columns that I have to put up, and then those are the other two trusses that I have on the end. And I shouldn't say end columns. These are not end columns. These are the columns for the porch on the end porch. These are the end columns over here. So these are what I'm going to do first. I get all these set. There's 4 of these. So, but anyway, that's what's on the agenda for today. Hopefully everything goes smooth. I'm glad that this jig I made to set the trusses actually worked really well. It was I'm sure I overdid it, but it saved a lot of money, and honestly I don't know that it probably was easier than, I mean, because I actually set up the trusses standing up, so I didn't have to tilt them up once they were connected together. So it worked out pretty good. So, but anyway, that's the update for today. Hopefully we'll have a clear day and be able to get the rest of this stuff done today. Today's Sunday. Yesterday we got the end columns in. Which was kind of a pain because they're actually taller than the forklift by about 1.5 feet. So they were a pain to get up there, but it worked out okay. The detail on the plan doesn't have the right connector on it, so it took me a while to figure out which one I was supposed to use, but those are actually pretty easy to put together. So I got that all up there. I got these 2 end porch columns and the truss set, and that went pretty smooth. So I put these pieces of square tubing on the sides just for temporary support, and just beam clamped them to the side, because these don't get side walls. So this will all be open up to the deck, and then there'll just be a regular roof extended out with the 18-inch overhang all the way around. So looks like I looked down the roof line from up top yesterday, and it seems like this end truss here that I had a little bit of concern about being maybe a little bit too high, but it looks like it's pretty close to where it should be, so that's good. So I think I'm up to about 5 days so far, just pretty much working by myself. I think it probably could have been a day shorter, maybe. I had a lot of trouble with this wall over here, getting the girts lined, or getting the columns lined up so the girts would land right. But I think everything seems pretty tight so far. So what I'm going to do now is this morning, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to mark out where the peak of the truss should be, make sure that it's actually sitting where it's supposed to, see if anything ended up getting tweaked out of position or something. And I'm also thinking I'm gonna go down the column line. I think we're pretty straight at the base since the bolts were lined up with the edge of the form board, but I am a little bit concerned about the top. I don't know where those, I think they're going to be close to inline, but I know that there was like one truss on each side that looked like it was, maybe it was a little bit out of plumb, so that would definitely turn into a wave in the wall if I didn't get that straightened out. And I want to make sure that's done before I start putting all the girts and purlins in. So that's what I'm going to do today. And then the next step, and really the big push now, is to get the girts that go on the end columns. I want to get those in place, and I want to see how that lines up with the window placement, because the next thing I need to do is order the windows, and that's going to be the big hold up for a while. The last quote I got, they said it was going to take 5 weeks, and I know that the engineer changed up the window sizes on me, so I don't know if they're a standard size anymore. He did a couple of things with the windows I wasn't very happy about, but we were in enough of a hurry to get the plans together that I didn't add that to the list of fights. So we'll see. Hopefully they're not some kind of oddball size or something. And then as long as we can get the windows ordered, I think what I'll probably do, well, so I got a couple of things going on. One of them is I bought this Connex over there, shipping container. I don't know if you can see it, but it's just like the other one, the 40-foot high cube that I bought a while back and painted, and it actually is already green. So I'll see if I can get a picture of it. You can kind of see it through the woods over there, but it's like it's right about there. I bought that so we could build it out, and just a real simple build out inside so that the kids can have their friends over and goof around or whatever. Right now we don't really have any space for them to hang out, so that's just going to be a temporary space for that. And I think while we're waiting for the windows, I'll work on that, and I'll also probably put the roof on. I got an issue with the detail for the siding, where the siding and the roof overhang end up. I keep finding these little weird things, details that they did with this building kit. They show the
the wall siding, they're showing it going all the way up, a full sheet going all the way up, and then they got an outside closure where the J channel for the what do you call it, the soffit, so the J channel that holds the soffit in, they want to screw that to the ribs on the face of the full sheet of siding going up, and then have like just a closure in between there. So basically you're going to have exposed closure. It's like a foam thing just to keep the bugs out and stuff. It's going to look dumb to me. I don't know why they did that. I'm thinking it is probably because there's no place to fasten a J channel. Normally you put a J channel facing down on the top side. You slide the siding material up into the J channel, and then there's a bottom trim that it sits on the bottom that closes off the end of it, so that way both ends of the sheet are closed off. But the way that they're doing it is just, I don't know, it seems like a hack way to do it. But I think the reason why they're doing it is because you would have to have a place to fasten the J channel at the top of the wall, and I'm thinking that where that girt is probably doesn't line up with where the soffit comes off of the roof overhang. So right now I'm thinking I'm gonna probably put something in there to fasten the J channel to, so that I can actually install it correctly. But we'll see how that goes when we get to it. So anyway, that's where we're at now, and I'm gonna start checking these trusses and columns and make sure everything's lined up right. Thought I'd do an update this morning, since I haven't done it in a few weeks. I haven't gotten too far on the house. We had other stuff going on too, but we also had a hurricane last week, so I had to strap everything down. Had to move everything around to get it strapped down. The hurricane wasn't a big deal. I think the weather people wanted it to be like always, but it didn't turn out to be much, at least as long as you weren't on the coast. But anyway, so I think if I remember last time, I hadn't started the gable ends yet, and you can see I got the subfascia on there, on this end anyway, and I got this end, I got all the girts up that I can do without putting the windows and doors in. But I did figure something out with this building kit that is kind of a problem, and I don't know if I mentioned this before, but these beams and the columns and trusses, they twist and they're not straight. So you put a 6-foot level on it and it says it's level or plumb, and then when you actually go to build it, you find out that it's just all twisted and everything, which makes it so that it doesn't actually plumb up, and you can't trust it one way. So you can see I think along this edge you're pretty safe. I think that stays pretty firm in that direction. And I don't know if you can see down the column here, column line, they're pretty plumb and pretty straight. But going the other way, if you look at it from this side going this way, they're just all over the place. And so I use a 6-foot level thinking I was going to be pretty close. You know, I didn't expect them to be perfectly straight, but I thought putting a 6-foot level on there would get me pretty close to where we needed to be. But so this is where I ended up on the ends, which might be why they build them this way. but I'm gonna guess that if somebody else was building this, they would have just put the purlins and the girts right on the columns, and they would have just gone with it. But once you put a string line on this and you put a laser on it and you see where it actually needs to be, I had to pull this whole thing out this way 3/4 of an inch in order to get it straight all the way down the wall. So, and then in order to get them straight going up, I had to put a laser at the bottom and then a laser up there at the top, and then put a string down, which is what I did all the way down here. So this front end should be square and plumb and straight and everything now, but it was kind of a pain to get it there. And then that created other problems too, because you're supposed to have a 18-inch overhang on the end, but the way the columns ended up in the trusses, I actually was too long on this end and I was too short on that end, which the long end isn't a problem because I can cut them off, but the short end, that creates a problem. So what I ended up doing was I used this C channel, that 4-inch deep C channel, to put on the end instead of just the regular channel that I think it's 1.25 inches or something like that they normally use. But with that deep C channel, I could just cut off the couple long ones and then I could cheat it to get it where it needed to be. So now it's perfectly 18 inches out where it needs to be, so all the soffit pieces should fit perfect. Knock on wood. Not a lot of wood in here to knock on, but so anyway, today I'm gonna try to get this other end wall done. This one I probably won't be putting a lot of girts on the walls because this one is just full of windows. I probably got almost all the girts up that I can do. So what I'll probably do is get the track on the bottom up here. I'll get the track up here on the top or the bottom of the purlins, and I'll get any of the girts that I can going up in that gable end there. And then once I'm done with that, I'll probably come out here and finish up the overhang on the end here. This is another kind of area of confusion because it's supposed to be an 18-inch overhang, but the 18 inches is based on where the edge of the slab is there, which is, you know, where the girts would end up if there was actually another column here to bring. We were gonna have an end wall here, so it actually is more like 18 plus 6 and 5/8, I think is what it works out to be. So whatever that ends up. So then if you put the soffit pieces on there like that, then they're actually 6 and 5/8 inches too short, or 7 and 5/8, because they're only 17-inch soffit pieces. And so my option would be to cut these all back so that they're closer to the truss. But then you got issues with the fact that the truss isn't exactly perfect. And I don't know how far out it is, but I imagine that's probably at least 1/4 from one end to the other, just because of how wavy those things are. And then the other thing is, like, do I really want to shorten up the extension? I don't want to do that. So I was trying to think how I could, you know, put in some sort of soffit that would make sense. And then on top of that, considering the fact that I probably should have some kind of finish on the bottom of this area here, which is pretty much the porch overhang. And right now I'm kind of almost settled on, I think I might just get some black like 29 gauge steel, the same material, just a lighter gauge, the same we're using on the roof, just a lighter gauge, and put it on the bottom of this. I think that would look nice and it would be pretty easy to do. I think it would not really show up too much of the inconsistencies in the framing and stuff. So I kind of think that's where I'm going with this right now. So, but anyway, I'll even up the ends of these up here, and get the cap on the end there, the 4-inch channel, and then next would be, and I don't think these were up here last time either, but I put all these eave extensions on here, and with these, I would have to put, there's a C channel that goes on the outside, and then there's a purlin that gets nested inside the C channel. So there's 2 pieces of metal going all the way down the edge, and then in between there's also, you can probably see a little plate up there in the middle. So in between each of these, I have to run another purlin down, and those are kind of a pain because you have to notch them around the steel, because they're actually, instead of going with the roof, these are actually sitting straight, because this is another odd thing that they did here, but they're tying this wall into the purlin. So that piece of metal has to be going straight with this wall, because when the steel goes up, it's going to attach to that purlin up there. So I'm sure it's structurally, it gives it a lot of extra strength, but as far as the installation, there's a couple reasons why I don't like that. And one is it's going to be a pain, and it doesn't seem like it makes a lot of sense. But the other thing is, the way that forces us to install the soffit on the sides is they want to attach the J channel sideways on the ribs and put outside closure underneath it, which is basically just like a gasket material in between the J channel and the little gap between the ribs and the main wall metal. So what, normally you'd have a J channel facing down and you would slide this steel up into it, but this way we're going to attach the J channel to the side of the metal, and then the soffit will slide into that. So I really fought with whether or not I should just abandon that idea and go ahead with how it would normally be installed, but I'm concerned that I don't know how much of the structure is built around having that steel tied into that purlin up there, and I don't think it's going to look too bad. It's just a cheesy way to do it. I don't know how you get around that being cheesy. It's just cheesy, but that's the way they designed it, and I'm concerned about changing that kind of thing in the middle of this, because it is structural for sure. But anyway, so I think it's been about 3 weeks or so since I did any update, so you can see I haven't gotten a lot of this done since then. I probably worked on it, I don't know, maybe 4 full days since then, which, a lot of it was just me. I didn't make video of it because it was just me trying to figure out what to do with that end wall. But I got that kind of ironed out now. But what I did do was, we took a couple of weeks, and I think it worked out to be probably about a 4-day deal or so, maybe, if you figure all the time put into it. But we built out this connex over here, so it's kind of messy in there now because the kids are starting to put stuff together, but I'll just show you what I did. The outside's not finished yet, but you can see what we got here. Eventually I'll have to, and probably pretty soon actually, but I need to seal this up because this wood wasn't made to be outside. I'm kind of pondering fiberglassing it right now. Just put some fiberglass and polyester resin on there and bring it up the wall a little bit. That way when the water gets in here, it can just run out, or it can just sit there and it won't hurt anything. But it's a real simple setup. I didn't make any penetrations through the walls. I just put this little inset wall in here, so we could put the AC in and have an entry door. So eventually, you know, it probably won't be that long from now, but it's not a priority, I guess. But we'll put some siding on this, you know, put an outlet in there and a light. So it'll be kind of a nice little entryway. So this is it. It's kind of a very narrow space, but the idea is that, you know, this gives the kids a place to hang out with their friends and stuff, and if people come over, they'll have a place to sleep at night. It's a kind of a real basic setup, but I got these TVs because I thought they would probably like just hanging out and watching movies or whatever in here. And I got the internet. I got everything set up for a router up there. We'll put a little shelf up there and put a little wireless router up there. The flooring we found at Lowe's really cheap, is like $1 a square foot or something like that. So that went down pretty quick. I think we got that done in a few hours. The kids and Wendy helped me with that. And so then I also put in this wall here, kind of like another space in the back so we can store stuff, because right now, the way we're living in the RV, we don't have any storage. So, you know, just really basic. I like the idea of putting the OSB in here and not instead of drywall, because I guess the idea with this thing is this thing can actually be loaded right back up on a trailer and moved somewhere, and it's just ready to, it's plug and play. I mean, it's all set up to go. It's got its own electric there's an electric panel in here. If I can open it, apparently I need to find an electrician to figure out how to open it. So just real simple. Some receptacles, AC in it, and lights. But you know, with this OSB, you don't have to worry about this cracking, or it's gonna hold up a lot better if it gets moisture in here. You know, it's not like the most finished looking thing, but for what we're using it for, I think it's kind of ideal. And it was pretty easy to install too. And this whole thing was a really easy installation. The guys, Justin and Grant, did the framing, and basically it was real simple. We built they built the walls up in the shop up there. We used 16-foot long 2x4s for the top and the bottom. And then we used, I can't remember if I think we used 8-foot boards. The way it worked out anyway, it was like basically no cutting of wood. It was just like you take the wood, you lay it out, and you nail it together, and then you just bring a 16-foot section of wall in here, set it up, build another one, set that one up, you screw the two together, and then they did the same thing with the ceiling. You just build a 16-foot section, set it up on top of the walls, and fasten it to the wall. And just real simple. They had it framed out, and I don't know, I don't think it took a full day. And then I think the following day was when we did the plywood. We had the plywood done. Oh no, the next day we did installation and the electric. So electric and installation was done the next day, and then the following day after that, we did the plywood, and with with the kids and Wendy and me, we got it all done in one day. So it worked out good. So anyway, that's where we are now. I'm looking at getting one more. Oh, look at that. I wonder what happened there. Something messed that up. It's probably from the refrigerator. That's awesome. Brand new door. Kind of worked out nice too that it was green. I didn't have to. I think we'll still paint it, but it's not as big of a hurry as it would have been if it was like bright red or orange or something like that. Whoa, spider. Walked right into a spider web. So the next thing I need to do, I have the windows are already ordered. I've been trying to get doors, but you know, it's frustrating with these window and door guys because one, I don't think they're real. At least the people I've been talking to haven't been super knowledgeable. I think the guy I bought the windows from, he's a pretty sharp guy, but he sends me a quote for. So I got 3 doors. It's 2 double doors. They're just regular right hand in swing. They're tall, of course, so that probably adds a little bit to the cost. But so there's 2 double doors and 1 single door for the laundry. The 2 double doors are I asked for a full light just because I wanted to get something simple. I thought that would be probably a cheap way to go. They would look nice, just a smooth fiberglass with a full light glass. The quotes were anywhere from let's see, so I think they started around 15,000 and went to about 18,000 for the 3 doors. And I'm like, man, that's crazy. I mean, I don't know how. I mean, I know how it gets there because people are spending monopoly money when they take out a loan from the bank to build their house. It's like, yeah, whatever, just tell me what it is and I'll pay for it. You know, the bank's paying for it anyway. But when you actually think about that, I mean, you could buy a car for what I'm paying for these doors. So I started looking into a little bit more. And it's like, one of the things is, I don't even think these guys are even giving me their door ratings that they need to be. They're not even real like solid on what they're supposed to be providing quote on. But then I also started looking into other companies that make doors, and you know, it's like I can get a pretty nice looking door for what I would pay for these like basic, very basic, you know, vanilla looking doors. So right now I'm most likely gonna get kind of a nice looking, like a wood grain stainable, like with raw iron on the windows and stuff like that. So I think that's where we're probably gonna end up there, and it probably will actually even save me a little bit of money, so hopefully. So anyway, that's the update for now. Hopefully I can get a lot of this work done. It's Labor Day weekend this weekend, so that'll give me hopefully a good 3 days to at least 2. Anyway, I don't know if I'll take Monday off yet or not, but hopefully I can get these eave extensions done, get all the eave purlins and everything in, you know, and get to a point where the next thing would be to frame in the windows and doors, which I'll be starting on that as quick as possible. The windows don't come in for, I think they said 6 weeks, but they might come in sooner, which creates another thing. You know, now I got to find a place to store these things because it's $30,000 worth of windows and another probably $18,000 worth of doors. Like, where do you keep these things? So I think what I'm going to do is have that guy bring out another Connex. I'm going to stick it over here, and that'll give me a place to store the windows and doors temporarily, and then once that's cleared out, we'll bring all the stuff from the Wesley Chapel Connex over here and load that up. So and I think this isn't a terrible spot. It's closer to the house than I would like it to be, but the nice thing about it is it's kind of hidden in the back here. I think we could plant some trees around it and it could probably stay there forever and no one would ever care. So I don't think it'll be super visible from the house. You'd only see the end of it anyway, even if we didn't plant something in front of it. So anyway, that's the update for now, and we'll see where we end up. Just wanted to do another update. I was hoping to be a little farther along in this by now. This is October 1st. So we're about, let's see, July, August, September. So we're about almost 4 months into it now. I got the slab poured and most of the frame up, with the exception of the doors and windows framing. So I had intended to get everything prepped and ready to start putting the roof metal on probably this coming week, but then I ran into a problem. See these, they call them truss extensions. These metal buildings are meant to have the roof end at the wall. So if you want to have eaves, then they build these truss extensions and you bolt those onto the frame, and which is probably a good way to do it, except if you build them wrong. And I didn't know that. I knew there was some issue going on, because as I was putting them up I noticed they were really close. I mean, it's a 6-inch deep purlin, and these truss extensions are 6 inches deep, so I knew that it was going to be close. So if there's any twist in the columns or trusses or anything, it was going to cause me to have to do some modification. And I knew that there was at least one that I was probably going to cut down, but the whole time I'm thinking this is probably something that either the way the existing frame is installed, maybe it's twisted a little bit and that's causing the problem. So I never even put my tape measure on it. But I'm actually starting to question now if some of these other problems I've been having are caused by the way that the steel is built. I mean, I would think that they would have jigs and you would just put the angle and the bars and everything that you're going to weld together in a jig, and that they would all be pretty much made the same within a 1/8 inch tolerance or something like that. But these truss extensions are 6 inches deep, which I think is a bad idea. That's what I told the guy at Worldwide Steel. Why would you make them 6 inches deep when you're right on the razor's edge of having a problem? Because if it's off by 1/8, then you're 1/8. I mean, if it's off on the low side, then you're okay, because they don't have steel on the top of them. The steel sits on the purlin, so it doesn't need to touch the truss extension. So why would you make them exactly on the razor's edge of the depth that they need to be? I couldn't understand why you would do that. So, you know, even if they were making them to tolerance, which I would guess is probably 1/8 of an inch, you're still on the verge of 1/8 of an inch would be too much. So you got roof sheet metal that's only 26 gauges going over the top of something that's sticking up 1/8 of an inch, and it's only 3 inches from the edge of the purlin. So you're putting a screw on the purlin and it's going over this truss extension that's up 1/8 of an inch. You're going to see a bump. There's no way around it. That's if it's 1/8 of an inch. Well, some of these are 1/8 of an inch, But some of these are 5/8 of an inch. This one over here, they had multiple that were 1/2 inch and over. This one right here is 5/8. I think I'll go up there and just show it. But so right where the edge of that meets the purlin up there, it's sticking up 5/8 of an inch. And I've been scratching my head over like, what is causing this problem? And finally I put a tape measure on it, because the whole time I'm thinking there's no way that these guys screwed it up that bad. I must have done something. And I put my tape measure on it, 6 5/8. So I call them up and I told them, you know, this is a problem now, because it's already built. Now I got to go through and take everything apart, put the new truss extensions on, which Worldwide Steel Buildings, I'm guessing that I'm not the first one to call. Maybe I am, I don't know, but because they expedited it. So I called them Friday morning. They built them Friday. They're shipping them out Monday morning, and I'm going to have them on Wednesday. And that's from Missouri or wherever they're from. So they jumped right on it. But still, like I say, now I have to go to all of these, take them all apart, which means I also have to disconnect these connections for the X bracing up there. That's a big deal in itself. So I got another probably 2 days worth of work, if I'm lucky, of just tearing this thing back apart and redoing it, because they didn't build these right. But anyway, so I'm not going to be putting the roof on this week like I thought. So instead I spent yesterday, going through and putting down the bottom girts, and that didn't go too bad. It was fairly smooth. Left out the door openings at the bottom, and so the next thing, then I went and bought all the bucks for the windows. And since the engineer wants me to use wood bucks, and he's also said PT, that creates a whole other thing. So you can't have pressure treated lumber up against steel, because it'll corrode the steel. So what I have to do is, and then the other thing is, so these are 6 inches wide. The purlins are 6 inches wide, and a 2x6 is 5.5 inches wide. So I can't use a 2x6. Next size bigger is a 2x8, which is 7.25 inches wide. So that means that I have to rip down all these boards to 6 inches, and then I have to build the bucks and then wrap them in window flashing before I can put them in here. So it's kind of I feel like we're kind of making a mountain out of a molehill here. I think we probably could have just fastened it to the steel and it would have been fine, but you know, since the government requires me to get an engineer involved and I have to do whatever he says I have to do, that's what I'm doing. So, and I do have a gripe about that, because you know, I think the government has its place in building, but I think when it comes to personal residences, I don't understand why they have any say at all. I know that I think that comes down to they're protecting the banks, and I think that's wrong. But anyway, so that's where we are. I think I'll go up there and show you what that piece of metal looks like on the truss extension. I don't know what the deal is with that. There's always some other problem to deal with. Everything else is going right, and then You can't unplug the lift cord. So I don't know if you can see that from with the camera, but if you look down the edge of this, it's sticking up. It's only 3 inches from this. I mean, if it was 10 feet away and it was sticking up that much, you could probably almost get away with it, even though I wouldn't let it stay that way. But 3 inches, and 3 inches, I'm going to be putting a screw right there, and then I'm going to be going up over this thing. It's going to put a big hump in it. But so that it looks like it's different on this side. You got this side is only 6 3/8. But that's the other funny thing, is that it's not even consistent. So you got 6 inches over here. If I measure on the other side, it's actually 6 5/8. From there, where I got the tape measure there, 6 5/8. So it's like, I don't know who is building these things, and I don't understand how you could really make that kind of error. I mean, this has to be about as brainless an operation as there is. I can only picture that they probably have somebody that they put these pieces of metal in a jig and then they weld them together while it's sitting in the jig. So I can't imagine how you get 5/8 of an inch of an inch off, and then on one side it's 5/8, on the other side it's 3/8, and then you go down to the other end and it's right on at 6 inches. It's mind-boggling, but also disappointing, because now it's going to create a lot of work for me. And on top of that, now I have to look at this now differently. Every time I run into a problem, I'm going to be going, I wonder if there's another problem with the assembly, or not with the assembly, but the building components themselves, if they even built them right. So anyway, but it's starting to come up, and hopefully within the next couple weeks here we'll start to get some metal on the sides and on the roof. Probably the roof first and then the sides, but it'll be nice to see that kind of progress happening, because I imagine that, looking at it from the outside, you know, I imagine that people don't see much happening. They kind of wonder what's going on, but it's just a lot of small pieces, a lot to think about, a lot of problems to solve. The next thing I'm probably going to be doing tomorrow is laying out for the window openings, and then with this metal siding, the corrugated steel, the issue there is where the ribs line up with the windows. And I have a lot of windows in here. There's 26 windows, and then there's 3 doors on top of that. And you really can't have the rib end on the edge of the J channel, because it creates a potential leak. And so what you really kind of the ideal thing to do is to lay out the windows and the metal to coordinate with each other so that they don't end up like that. And I'm sure that if somebody else is building this, they probably would just, you know, they'd throw the windows in and then they'd throw the steel up, and then they'd deal with the ribs falling wherever they fell. But and I might run into a situation where I have to do that too, I don't know, but I'm gonna at least look at it, and it's gonna take some time because they're 3-foot panels. They're 3 foot to the center of the end ribs, and really the only way I can think to do it is to lay out where I think the window openings are gonna go, and then kind of lay out the panels where I think those are gonna go, and that's gonna tell me if they're going to work or not, and I might be able to just move the windows or the panels over one way or the other and kind of compensate for it. So it's going to be a little tedious, and hopefully it works out good, but that's where I'm at. And if I get to a point where it seems like I can take some video of what I'm doing, I'll probably make some more video of me installing stuff. But the problem is I spend more time with everything I've done lately, ever since the steel's been up. I spend more time trying to figure out how I'm going to do it instead of actually doing it. So it would be kind of a lot of video for not a lot of work, and which I think is kind of another. Well, I think it is one of my frustrations about this building kit. And would I buy another one of these? I don't know, because the reason I bought it in the first place is the simplicity of the design. Is you would put up the steel, and then you put up the girts. The girts and the purlins are already pre-cut. Really not a lot of measuring and not a lot of cutting going on until you get to the window layout and everything. And has been my experience at all. I've been fighting with this thing the whole time. Like these portal frames, I might have mentioned that on another day, but that's why I have these straps up here still, because I had to fight with those things to get those straight. I couldn't put the girts in because I couldn't get the columns to straighten up. If it went together the way I thought it would go together, this would have taken me maybe a couple of weeks, because I could have, when I'm putting the columns up and putting the trusses up, I think was a total of maybe 5 days. So having the main structure up, so it's been ever since then that I've been fighting with the thing. So, but anyway, it'll all come together in the end. It's just a matter of dealing with it and kind of finding solutions to the problems. So anyway, that's it for now. Just giving an update on where we're at now. I finally got the truss extensions in the other day, so I'm getting ready to prep to take everything apart so I can put those in. But while we were waiting, I had the guys come over the other day, and we put together all the window bucks, which there's 26 of them, which I kind of realize it's probably a lot of windows for this house, but I think we're gonna like having that many windows and that much light coming in. But anyway, this is I'll show you the ones I got for the trapezoid windows, and then I'll go over and show you in the shop where the rest of them are. And then we'll probably talk about these truss extensions and what I have to do to get that finished up. So here's these are the trapezoid windows. I put these diagonal boards in there to just keep them square, so when we go to put them up there, we don't really have to fight with them to keep them plumb and square. So I haven't done this before, but I'm assuming that's probably the best way to make that work. So I got that, and then I laid the walls out since this wall here is going to have, it'll have 3 levels of windows. It'll have the bottom one, those are 4 feet by 5.5 feet, so there'll be 2 there, another 2 there, and then 1 at the top on this side. And then in the middle here we got the French door, just 6 foot wide double door, glass, full glass. And then above that we got 2 windows there, and then we have the trapezoid windows at the top. And then over on this section we got 2 windows, and then 1 trapezoid at the top. So I laid out the floor, since they're all stacked on top of each other. I put these marks on the floor, and I'm sure there's easier ways to do this, but pretty much what I did in order to make sure that these all stack where they need to stack is I took these trapezoid window buck frames and I laid them out here up against the wall, and I pushed them up there and laid a board across the end so that I could see where they actually needed to go in order to make the line of the top windows, the top of those windows line up, and so it looks kind of like a triangle. And then, which I kind of had already laid it out, so it actually ended up being where I expected it to be when I put the window order in. But you can see the marks here on the floor. So these are about 2 feet apart. Then there's a 4 foot wide window, and then another 2 feet. You see that mark there, and then another 4 feet, and then that ends up being like 30 inches from the end. So I think that'll pretty much give us the idea is kind of like a glass wall, and I guess we'll see how that comes together. I hope it works out good because I think it'll look cool. But I'm gonna walk over to the shop now, and then I'll show you what the rest of the window bucks look like. There's quite a few of them. Look at that bug. I can't remember what those things are called. I think it's supposedly some kind of wasp, an ant wasp or something like that, but I think they sting, from what I understand. But they're kind of cool looking. Starting to cool off, which makes it nicer to work. It's getting pretty rough in the heat. But the other thing I kind of like is that the grass isn't going to grow as fast now, and because I don't really have time to mow all this land right now. But so anyway, here's the window bucks. So there's 5 of the 3 foot by 5 foot, or 5'6", so 3 foot by 5'6". Those will be the bedroom windows and the one in the bathroom. And then we have, I think it's 15 of the, these ones are 4 foot by 5.5 feet. And let's see, just a lot of wood. And what kind of made the day take longer is we had to rip them all down. You can see these are all ripped, but in order to get 6 inches we had to cut down to 2 by 8. But it worked out good because I was ripping them, Grant was cutting the pieces up, and Justin was assembling them. And so here's the last window size. These are 4 by 4, which will go up in the loft. The engineer had put the same size as those, the 4 foot by 5'6". But when I went out there and I did like the field, you know, once the structure was up, I started looking at where these windows are going to end up in relation to the floor and trusses and all that. And that would have put these a foot off the floor, which I didn't really like that. So this moves them up another 1.5 feet, which is, I think that's going to be about right. And then this one here, there's a couple of these that I changed too, because he had 2 big windows in the master bedroom, and he had 2 small windows in the master bathroom. And I thought that it looked cheesy on the elevation, so from the front you would see like just a bunch of odd sized windows everywhere, and I don't know if that really matters, but to me I like to see the symmetry. So with this setup, when you come up to the front of the house, you're gonna see 4 windows that are the same size, and they're gonna be stacked on top of each other, so it's all kind of symmetrical. And in order to do that, I had to rearrange the master bathroom and added a closet. I'm going to be putting well, I had to change the location of the shower and the water closet. Had to swap the locations of them. So it's going to make the plumbing a little more tricky too, but I checked it out and it should work out, so I can run the drain all the way down to where we had it stubbed up in the slab. It's going to be close, but it should work out. If it doesn't work out, I don't know. I probably made a big mistake there, but I think it'll look a lot better this way. So, of course, the engineer, I had a conversation with him the other day about the fasteners for the window bucks, because we're going from PT into steel, and so it had to be a fine thread fastener, but it also had to be number 12, and it had to be rated for ACQ pressure treated. And so I was talking to people about it. I couldn't figure it out, so I ended up calling the engineer, and now he wants to come out here and see the site, and sounds like he wants to come out here and just hang out a bunch of times, and I'm kind of on the fence about whether that's a good idea or not, but I'm sure when he sees all the changes I've made, that'll be interesting to see his reaction to that, because technically some of this I probably have to get engineer letters, and we might have to send revisions into the county, and so I don't know, we'll see. I'm not going to stress over it too much, even though I probably should. So that's where we're at. I don't know if I'm going to take any video of what I do this weekend, because pretty much all I'm doing is I'm gonna rebuild these truss extensions. I guess I'll show you what that involves. So if you look up here, that top piece up there, or the piece on the end right there, it's actually a 6-inch channel that's going in that direction, which is attached to the truss extension, and then over the top of that we put a stud inside there. So what makes that kind of stink is, now in order to get to those truss extensions, I have to pull that cap off of there, which is those studs. I have to pull those out, so I have to take all the fasteners out, pull the stud out, then I can take the truss extension, or take everything off the truss extension, and then all those other purlins up there, I have to take those all out too. So it's going to be a lot of work, and I'm hoping to be able to do it one by one, so I don't have to keep moving the forklift around. But we'll see how it goes. Hopefully it won't go too bad, but either way, my goal is to have that done this weekend, so that next week I can start looking at how I'm going to get the roof on. So that's where we're at. Just doing a quick update on the house. we ended up getting some of the roof installed the other day. Justin had some time at work, so I figured just bring him over here and we'll try to get some of the roof up. So it was kind of messy and it was pretty tricky to get the first sheets up there, but we got started on it anyway. But you can see there's about, I guess that would be 10 sheets up there now. So we got quite a ways to go, but got it started anyway. So what I ended up having to do was there's no place to walk up there. You can't really walk on those purlins. So I had to get a couple sheets up there on each side just so I could have a place to walk, and that was the hardest part. So I mean, it's still not easy, but that was the hard part, to get the sheets up there. So you can see it's the 2 sheets on the end up here, those 2 sheets right there. Once I got those up there, and then I could walk up there, and I'm using those Cougar Paw magnetic boots, and I have a 50-foot retractable lanyard that I'm hooking up to my harness, so I don't feel too unsafe up there. It's still a little, I'm not enjoying it. You know, I especially don't like getting close to the edge of the roof, because if you fall, that's a 20-foot drop, plus whatever's on the ground that's sticking up, that's gonna go straight through you. So I try not to fall off. But anyway, so what I'm doing now, I'll just show you what I wanted to tie in the vapor barrier between the roof part and the walls, and there's no real detail on this. Well, there might be, but I can't get one anyway. The building company and insulation company have been no help for me trying to get some information on installing this. They call it the thermal break. It's like it's plastic on one side, kind of like an insulation plastic, and then there's a thin layer of insulation fiberglass, and then the other side it's a foil back. So I think the main reason for it is to keep the heat from transferring directly from the steel, the metal roof and metal siding to the metal purlins and the metal girts. So it should keep a lot of the heat from transferring straight into the house. So I wanted to put it on there, and it's also supposed to be a vapor retardant, but there's no details on how to wrap windows or anything like that to actually keep the moisture out. So what I decided to do was I'm going to leave the roof with just the thermal break on it, but on the walls I'm going to wrap in Tyvek so that I can do a normal window wrap to keep the moisture and the vapor and water out around the windows and doors. But I also wanted to tie that into the roof, and I'm sure that somebody that does this all the time might know a better way to do this. But what I ended up doing was I cut a roll of Tyvek in half, so it's 4.5 feet wide, and I'm rolling it out along the edge over here and along both gable ends, and I'm just leaving like I guess it'd be 2.5 feet, or no, it'd be 3 feet, goes up into the purlins, and then 1.5 feet is going to drop down into the wall section, and I'm going to tape off both ends, and then I'll have to go around and seal up everywhere where we had to cut around one of the beams up there, or up here, all the purlins come off the end, so I had to cut in between those. You can see it's all cut in between, so I'm probably going to end up, I'll either tape those or caulk them, or I might foam them. I'm not sure which is going to make the most sense right now, but one way or another I'm going to seal those all off so that once the roof is all done and I go to start putting the Tyvek on the walls, these will overlap the section of Tyvek that's on the wall below it, and then we'll just tape it all off. So that should give us a good building envelope. It might not be, I'm sure that there's no detail that shows doing it that way anywhere, but I'm sure that it's going to do what we're trying to do. So one thing I was kind of liked about how this turned out is once you roll this insulation out, that thermal break, it just lays in there nice and tight. You can see it's really clean. It's kind of a pain to get it up there because of trying to get it over the purlins, and then you have to overlap it 3 inches on one side, 3 inches on the other side, so you got to overlap 6 inches. And then I've been taping it. We taped it down below here first. You can probably see the tape. I don't know if you can see it up there, but you can probably see that this one is taped down below, and then this one there's no tape on the bottom. It's kind of hard to tell. But this one, the second one, I taped it from the top, and I think I'm going to try to do that for the rest of it, because to tape it from the bottom you have to break the tape at each purlin. So so far it's going pretty good. I think I'm going to try to get a time lapse of what I do today and see how that goes. But that's it for now. Got these magnetic shoes, so they want to keep all the little metallic things on them. So I gotta kind of wipe it off before I start working. But man, these make a difference on this roof though. It's a little slippery up here if you don't have these. So I have these, and I also have this harness that's attached to one of those retractable lanyards. So this is a 50-foot one, so I can pretty much get a pretty big area without moving. But I'm just gonna show what I got up here, and then I'll put a couple of panels up. So today's Sunday. Yesterday I was out here putting roof panels on, and I got up to about halfway. You can see what it looks like. I was gonna be putting more panels on today, but I ran out of tape for the insulation, and I was thinking I could tape it from the bottom, but that's a lot. It takes a lot more time. I think it's probably more, you can't tape where the purlins are if you tape from the bottom, so I think it makes more sense to tape it from the top if I can. So I have tape coming in today, but it's not going to be here in time to do any work on the roof, so rather than cobbing it together, I'm just gonna wait until I get the tape, and I'll probably start on it next week sometime. I should have about 2 days of work left to get the roof finished up, or at least get the panels on. So today I'm going to be working on framing up the window and door openings. I got to add a couple purlins. I got one on this side and a couple going across this side, and then I'm going to start running the track and hopefully get some of these window bucks in today. That'll at least make it look like something's starting to happen out here. So I'll probably do a time lapse of that. Before I get going, I figured I would show the new Connex we got out here. I've been trying to get one for a while, and the guy hasn't been going to pick them up, I guess. And I could get them from somewhere else, I guess, but I think I got a little system down now. I've got enough of these from this guy that he just he's pretty comfortable with just dropping them off. So this one I don't think is as nice as the other ones were, and it's red, so I'm not, it's not my favorite, but I needed to get it for the windows and doors, and I also need to start moving stuff over from the Boyette Road property. But it looks like they put something tall in here, because you can see the roof is pushed up in a couple spots. But like I say, I'm not I'm not looking for something fancy. Just trying to get something I can get storage in, and he's able to bring it out pretty quick. So I just got a notice that some of my windows came in, so it seems like it came just in time. But probably this week or sometime soon we'll be running power into here so we can get some lights up in there. And the power will run from over there where the well panel is. It's a pretty straight shot from there to here, and we'll just do what we did on the other ones and stub it up inside here. I'll probably put another outlet in so we can plug in the kiln, since that's running off an extension cord right now. But this is kind of temporary anyway. I imagine that after the house is built and somewhere down the road, we'll probably end up moving this somewhere so that it's not kind of in our personal space. But anyway, so I put these I didn't know if I was going to be here when the guy came, so I marked out with marking paint. You can kind of see what's left of it. He got it right on there too. We're in really close in line with it. So, but I didn't know if I was going to be here when he dropped it off, so I put these stakes in the ground and painted them orange so he wouldn't run into my roofing metal. But so anyway, that's the Connex.